And we're back. Okay, more a woodworking video this time. We were practicing using a speed square the other day, and I have two speed squares for you here. We have a Johnson speed square, we have a Swanson speed square. Swanson, I believe, is the one who manufactures them now. This is an older version of this. Speed square is a very versatile tool. Carpenters and those that work with wood will tell you that this is probably the tool that they want to have in their pocket more than any other tool that they have. And please do not confuse the speed square with the framing square. Now, the framing square is an ancient tool that can trace its lineage back all the way to the Egyptians when they were building the pyramids. This particular framing square is one that I've been working on trying to restore. When I first got here to Eunice High School, this was completely covered in rust. And so every now and then I'll take out my steel cleaning products and I will go in and rub on this some more to see if I can get it. I do have the numbers where you can see them. You'll also notice that on this framing square we have all of these numbers. These are rafter tables that we can use in order to lay out rafters. We also have tables that we can use to lay out stringers for stairs and other cutting that involves using angles. We can do the same thing here with the speed square. Now, the speed square, of course, we can use a speed square to determine if something is actually square. It has this nice ridge on the end of it. We can lay this up here and we can determine if something is square, and for the purposes of our exercise, this is actually fairly square. And I'm still trying to get the Sawzall dialed in, but doing a fairly decent job. Alright, you'll notice that we have a diamond here. We have, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, there we go. We have some little what I call thermometers or bubbles over here. You have this writing here called hip and valley. Now, hip and valley, this is for doing the roofs of houses. If you look at a house, and I'm going to use my board here. If you look at a house, we have the structure of the house. Okay, there's our door, there's a window. Can you see that? Very good. All right, there's different aspects to what we call the roof. A roof that comes up like this and does this at the top. These here are called the hips. If you have on your roof of your house, let's say this is the front of your house, and you have your front door, and let's say the roof comes along, but then it ducks down. Then, of course, this is the valley right in here. So we can compute the angles using the hip and valley measurements that are here. There's a whole book that goes with this. There are plenty of videos out there. This also doubles as a protractor, because here we have the different degrees going from 0 on this end to 90 on this end. So we can use this to lay out angles. And that's exactly what I had my students do the other day in class. First off, I wanted them to determine if their piece of wood was square. And this was totally for them just to practice using this, to lay it up here and look down and go, yes, that piece of wood is square. And you can do it a couple of different ways to see. And yes, it is fairly square. Then I asked, and in using the framing square, determine the center of our piece of wood. And to determine the center of a piece of wood is super simple. All we're going to do is we're going to connect the corners of the piece of wood. Now, the problem that the students were having is that when you're doing this, you have to allow for the diameter of your pencil lead. So you can't just lay the framing square across the corner, or else you're going to push your line up here and you will not be finding the exact center. So you have to kind of put your pencil here and then move the square up to it. And in this case, we're pretty well set out, so let me set the camera back down here. And we're just going to use the framing square to connect the corners of this particular board that's a leftover from when we were doing our first project, which was a boot jack. And for those of you that might not be familiar with what a boot jack is, I'll show you one here in a second. But by connecting the corners, we can find the center of our board if we needed to find the center in order to put a hole, or maybe we needed to put a handle there. This is a drawer front or something, so we can find the center. So that was using our square. Now for the speed square, it says using the diamond on the speed square, mark a line down one side of your wood, write your name next to it. In the older square, there is no diamond. So we need to understand though that right here there's a little bubble. The diamond is set up because a 2x4 is 3.5 inches wide. And so by using the diamond, we can drag this along the board and we can find 3.5 inches from the edge. Let's say I wanted to use this as a plate and put a 2x4 on top of it. I can use this to lay out the line for my 2x4. And then finally, I wanted the students to use the speed square to determine a 45-degree angle. Now there's two ways that we can do that. Very simply, I know that this is a 45-degree angle, so I can lay that line out like that. Or I can use, right here, it says pivot and it points to the edge and there's a little indentation. I can put this here and I can use this to pivot along a line. Let's say I wanted a 45-degree angle. I can, using my pivot point, line up the 45 and I can draw a 45-degree angle. I can check this simply by putting my square and moving it along, and sure enough, my square lines back up with the 45-degree angle. So, several things that we can do with this. I also wanted my students using the speed square to find the 2-inch mark. You can do it here at the notch. Okay, so I can make a mark here at the 2-inch mark using the notch that's right on the back side of 2 inches. Or if I understand that this is 1 inch wide, so here's 1 inch here, I can come out to the second bubble. See the little bubbles right there? I can come out to the second bubble, and there's 2 inches right there. So speed square, very nifty tool to have in your toolbox. You can use it for more than just squaring up objects. You can use it to lay out angles. You can use it to lay out rafters and stringers for stairs. All kinds of things you can do with it. Plenty of YouTube videos out there, but this was what I was having my students do in class. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to come back and I'm going to use the same board and I'm going to actually build the boot jack project, and we'll get to that in just a moment.